Welcome back to another episode of What's the Creator Podcast. I am your host, Justin Very. And today, you all, I got a very special one. Not only is this guy a really good creator, but he's also a really good friend. We've worked together now for at least 3 years, kind of connected in the local church, but really have grown together in what we do in this industry, in this media space. So welcome to the podcast, Brandon. What's up, my brother?
What up, Justin? Thanks for having me. And this has been a long, time coming because it's just been a blessing to see what God has been doing in our journeys together as creatives, as filmmakers. You being the director of media here with Ryan Pineda and that squad, and what you have done, and I've seen you do over the years. How you have leveled up his production, his team has been by far just so much fun to watch, and excited to talk value for people watching this episode and to really get into it.
No, dude, that's awesome, man. Thank you for that.
Oh yeah.
I really appreciate those words because, again, man, it's a grind, right? Trying to grow and trying to learn this space. But you've been right there, dude, too. Like I've watched you accelerate just in the last year.
Right.
What it is you do, and I really feel like, and we're gonna get into it, but I feel like you have found your place, right? Like you're skilled in every area of video work, right?
Yep.
Obviously. But I feel like you're kind of taking a market here,
Right.
And you're doing something that that truthfully other companies just can't do.
Yeah.
They don't have the skill work and the team to be able to do it.
Right.
So as we jump into this episode, a key point that I want to make to the audience or anybody that hears or listens to this episode, I want them to understand that when you find your place and you find your lane, that going all in on that one thing can really help you excel and accelerate your growth. So tell me, like Heartfelt Productions, let's get into a little bit of that. Tell me how you came up with the name first.
Man.
I love the name, dude.
You're gonna let's go way back to the story, of how we started this company.
Yeah, let's do it.
Like I never picked up camera, played baseball, college ball, had that competitive spirit. And once I got a degree, I was like 9 to 5. Didn't know what I wanted to do. And I moved back to Vegas and I felt like God was calling me, hey, pick up a camera. Went to church and somebody handed me a camera for the first time. And it's just been an incredible journey because it started at church.
Yeah.
It started, and then I was watching YouTube videos, and I was like, who's this guy on Think Media, Sean Cannell? And that's when he was like in the heart of his business, starting what he's done for Think Media.
Yeah.
And I met him, he had a meetup here, and I got into that circle. So I learned from Sean just how to provide the best quality. And then Omar El Takori, what he's done in his business on providing value for podcasting and studio setups. And then Kyle, and then John Mediana. And there was just all this influence. Yeah. And I think when you really think about, like, I can be in different situations no matter what our clients need, it's because I had each mentor who is the best in the industry teach me, how to become a better filmmaker, a content creator, and yourself as well, where it's just like on the live events and just how you have provided value with that team is like, it's unbelievable. So
yeah, man, I want to shout out those guys. Like everybody you named played a huge part in even what I'm doing now, right? Because I moved to Vegas in 2018.
Okay.
And I just happened to find enjoying a church that had all those guys going there.
Yeah.
I mean, that is what is a divine entry into a new space where you don't know anybody, right? Like you end up at a place that is going to set you on a path to what you're going to do and what you enjoy doing. And I like you said, it's true, right? Like all those individuals played a different role in gaining a skill that you now use, right? So Sean, shout out to Sean first for having that vision and having that, that platform that has really created millions now probably creators, right? They got over 2 million on subs on YouTube, but it's funny, right? Like my cousin is also here. He's a lead editor here with Ryan, and when he saw pictures of me with them, because I didn't necessarily know who they were up front. I was like, okay, these guys are doing video work, but I didn't necessarily know their influence around the country. And he was in Chicago, and I get a text message like, bro, are you with Sean? Are you with Omar? Like, how you get? Like, how does? And I'm like, I don't know. They go to my church, but the skill I can feel the separation in what I was learning from what I was trying to do on my own.
Oh, yeah.
and what I was able to gain from them. So shout out to them for doing that, man. Like, you all open doors and let people come in and learn from you all and kind of build from there. And so, yeah, it continues to move, man. Shout out to John, too. John's a great guy, man. I miss that guy.
John's awesome. And this year, funny story. So we were filming an event in Nashville.
Okay.
This is totally God's plan.
Yeah.
And I didn't know John lived in Nashville. And it was me and Nick. And Nick's like, where should we go get lunch? We were like at this place. And he was like, let's walk 2 miles down the road.
Oh, wow.
We went to the food court, and guess who was there?
No way.
John walked through the doors. And he goes, Brandon, this is not Vegas. What are you doing in Nashville?
Yeah.
And it was so cool. And we reconnected. And he was actually building out a content studio in Nashville called The Greatness Factory. And he was like, hey, come on down for lunch, and I'm going to show you around. And what he provided for this studio and podcasting, live streams, live events is unbelievable.
Yeah.
And he is just, what he's doing out there with his team, his back-end team is just another inspiration. All these guys just in their position, but they've always given back to help the other person get to that next level, which is like, it's rare in this industry.
No, absolutely. And we still see it, right? And what's great about it is if you look at, the branches of this tree.
Yes.
Right? If you look at, a lot of individuals have gone on to do things on their own at a high level and built out new teams.
Oh, yeah.
And you guys can go back. I had Ron on my podcast, and we talked about that. Ron, who's also, that you mentioned, really, really impactful in church plants.
Nice.
And he has an understanding of media when it comes to Christian influence and planting a church. And so I was talking to him about like how he grew his team and how he, and it's all the same stories that I hear from each and everybody else. So like Omar with the video department, grows a team, starts to build, and it's continuing to grow. And so it's like all these pieces are playing a massive role, and it's all from that foundation of first you hone the skill, you learn the skill, and then you begin to create your lane and find it that way. But I want to go back to something that you said that's really important, and for people to understand, especially as entrepreneurs or individuals that are trying to become freelancers and videographers and in this space that's trying to get into this media space. The very first thing you said was, I got with those guys and I was able to hone a skill.
Yep.
And I think like in today's space, because it is so easy and there's less barrier of entry into it as far as buying equipment and having AI tools to use on the back end, because the barrier of entry is less, people forget to hone the actual skill.
Yes.
So talk to me a little bit about how you go about making sure that anybody that you hire on or a team that you're building is for sure learning those skills first and getting really good at them before they begin to kind of start doing outreach and going out and providing for clients.
Right. I think we can go back at this, Justin, too, is like me and you both, how many free gigs we had to do when we first started.
Yeah.
I mean, but those free gigs were honing those skills.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Each video we were learning lighting, audio, composition, having steady footage, because I wanted to make sure I wanted to provide the best value before I charged for something.
Yeah.
And when I started charging, I had those skill sets and I was able to provide value for clients. And they were like, wow, this is really great quality. I used to pay my other videographer more, but the value that you provided up front was great because we learned our skill, we honed our skill. Yeah. And it's really incredible when you can, I think a lot of creatives, like when growing a team, I look back and anybody that wants to be, that I hire out, I got to make sure they are, have that skill set.
Yeah.
So I ask them, let me see your work. How are you good with people? Are you good with talking to people? Because there's so many organizations that we work with Make-A-Wish organization, which has been incredible. But you got to make sure when you're sending out a videographer, you're dealing with major corporations. And it's not like you're hiring somebody. You got to make sure they know and own their skill.
Right.
So.
Yeah, because there's so many more skills that are involved with on that production side, especially when it comes to hiring out and sending someone out.
Yep.
Right. So when I build teams, I look for character first, right? Like, are you doing it for money, or are you doing it because it's your passion? Are you doing this because you actually want to learn? Or like, I look for those things and I try to figure out what's motivating you.
Yeah.
Because my goal is always to put the team member in the best position.
Yep.
All right, like you said, sports background.
Oh,
So
yeah.
it's like I never wanted my big man, handling the ball up top. I always
Yep.
wanted them down there, prepared to get the ball, right?
Right.
I never wanted my shooter down on the post, right? He's a shooter. Make sure he gets open shots.
Oh, yeah.
So you want to put people in the best position to be successful. The
Right.
worst thing you can do is put them in the wrong position, hoping that they're gonna, get it right, and then be mad when they don't.
Exactly.
Right? And so that's always, my goal when it comes to that team. But I want everybody to have every skill.
Yes.
And so just like basketball is now,
Yep.
the bigs are going to shoot threes.
Oh, yeah.
They're going to dribble a little bit. They may get down the lane on you, right? You just never
Yep.
know what they're going to do because now they're obtaining every skill of the game versus being one-dimensional.
Exactly.
And so that's how I want, my guys. I always call them shredders, right?
Yep.
Because not only can they film you, not only can them direct you, they can also edit, and they can also get you really, good marketing, right?
Oh, yeah.
So it's like that's the ultimate goal is to teach them every aspect of
Right.
that business. So my advice always to like new videographers is like, if you want to do more, you better learn more.
Yep.
And you better figure out how to provide more service than just press and record and holding the camera.
Exactly.
Because I think the days of just being a good videographer and having success are over.
Mm-hmm.
For years, I dreamed of what it would be like to be like the head videographer for some
Yeah.
influencer or entertainer, or like what's it like traveling with whoever on their shows and
Yeah.
and like I'm like, what is that like? Like that's got to be a crazy experience. But then I was like, that's cool, but when they're not touring, what do you do?
Right.
Right now you're betting that the clout that you gain from being with them is going to propel you, but I learned that it doesn't. Right? Like,
Yep.
we did some really big jobs,
Yeah.
and I was like, okay, here we go, we ready now, and then the phone never rang.
Right.
And so it's like, no, you got to kind of start to begin to create that lane for yourself and understanding that, I got to provide more than just how
Yes.
good I am with a camera. You know what I mean? And so I got to the point where I was like, okay, I don't even care about being good anymore.
Yep.
I'm like, I've gained these skills. I know I'm okay at this. I know I can really do this at a high level.
Yo.
But I'm not about to go try to be, the best videographer.
Right.
Because it's a dead end. I'm trying to go be the best business, entrepreneurial,
Yes.
media. Like I want to do all of that because I can provide more value to our clients.
Oh, yeah.
What do you say for those though that are right now trying to go, all right, I thought I had a lane, and I thought like, freelancing and doing side jobs here and there was the best route to go. What advice would you give them for finding their own space?
I think you need to find your own lane. And, I've been in so many lanes. Like I've filmed over 150 weddings. We film with over 30 corporations that we've done in the last couple years, and corporate work, client work, micro content, live events. And I think you really have to figure out what are you passionate about, because you can get burnout so quickly in this industry. It's a very high-end pace, and a lot of people that I know do it by themselves.
Yeah.
And that's a good way to get burnout. So it's like when you continue to build this business and continue to build your company, your team, you got to delegate.
Yeah.
And that is that's one of the easiest things to get off your shoulders, but it's also a new challenge because you got to figure out what is the best for the team. How are they going to provide the best value and be, a leader within your organizations?
Yeah.
Because here with both of us, it's like, we want to build leaders within it so everybody can go out there, create their own brand, and be passionate about what they're creating.
Yeah.
And some of the first things that, I've noticed, like with, our team, it's like Oziel. He goes, Brandon, I just want to film weddings. That's my passion. That's my niche. And I was like, okay, you're my go-to wedding guy. He's filmed every wedding with us for the last 2 years.
Oh, wow.
And now he's starting to film his own. I think he did 5 this year for his company.
Oh, wow.
And so proud. And then it's
Shout out
like,
to him.
oh yeah. And then you got Nick too, where we met at church and, been doing this whole thing at City Light. And he's a great photographer. And he's really good mechanically, like knows all the little fine-tuned details with all this stuff. And it's like on certain shoots, he's like, I could be your right-hand guy for photo, but also help you on the back end. So it's plugging in, each person that they have the passion for doing what they want to do.
Yep.
Like Spencer Berry right here, he's passionate about editing. That's his lane. That's his course. He's posting stuff on social media now. So it's like when you're building a team, and this is like, What are they good at? What are they passionate about? And then just trying to figure it out, because every day is a new journey.
Yeah, because if you can help push the person's passion, you understand that, one, they're going to work harder.
Yep.
They're going to get better.
Oh, yeah.
And then they're even beyond that, they're going to serve someone else.
Uh-huh.
Right. And so I think like that's what's most important. And I want to say this too, because you keep hearing us talk about like coming up in the church and finding our way there. City like Las Vegas is such a blessing to us for allowing, their creators to come in and actually be creative.
Yes.
Because I've also been a part of places where it's like y'all can be creative to an extent.
Right.
Don't go too far. Right. We don't get too far out of the traditional what we expect every week from week to week. But City Light has opened that up for us to kind of do that. And then that's what's been so great about it, that almost all of us have somebody on our team from there.
Yes.
And that's what's awesome, because it's like not only are we creating together, but we're also employing each other.
Yep.
And supporting each other. That's one of my favorite things about events, is that it almost feels like the same team I work with on Sunday comes and does does the events, during the week. And so I really love that about it. But advice to anybody that's looking on top talent, go to your local church. Everybody that I've hired has usually started, in that interview process from the local church, team after team. And I've found that even within the business, on the normal side, outside of media, a lot of the employees are all going to church together. The number one reason I say start with the local church is, one, you're getting somebody that was given professional grade equipment right away.
Yep.
Right? Like they didn't start off with, the budget camera. They started off with usually a cinema camera, and they're learning how to operate that first. And so they're already starting at a high level of skill.
Oh, yeah.
And then the second reason I would say is because in church you're also serving. Yep. It's all volunteer work. It's like you're giving your time, and so you're understanding what it means to actually serve. And now when you got a client, it's easier to do it, right? It's because now I'm actually motivated even more because I'm getting paid for it.
Oh, yeah.
But I've already served, so I understand, how that needs to work. And then the third reason I would say is you're not going to go to church without communicating.
Mm-hmm.
And so you start to learn some of those communication skills as well. You start to learn when things are inappropriate, when things are appropriate, right? Like somebody that's unaware, especially as a videographer, will walk directly across the front if they need to get a shot. They don't understand where placements are, where they shouldn't be, the times to walk, times not to walk, times not to be loud, times to talk. Like they don't understand that necessarily if you don't actually do it week to week.
Exactly.
All right. And so what's great about the church is that every week you get an opportunity to kind of hone that skill. Every week I'm learning something new, or trying something new, or doing something different.
It's finding that lane. And I really thought about this, and I was like, I've loved weddings, but you got to think about your family first.
Yeah.
I got married this year, and it's a new chapter for us. So grateful, so blessed. And
yes, congratulations on that.
You know, it just, that got me thinking. I'm like, okay, starting a family. Where am I going to be when I have my kids? Yeah. Am I going to go, I got to shoot? Or can we build something special where it's like, you're providing high-end quality value, but you get to be there with your family? Mm-hmm. And that was the ultimate turning point. Mm-hmm. I was like, I don't want to be editing till 1 o'clock in the morning anymore, doing that. But it's like, okay, how can you build those systems and build your teams? And then that got me really thinking about, okay, like, what is our niche? And I've loved being around like this niche, the entrepreneurs, the business minds, because every time you film for them, they are providing value back to you.
Yes,
and they're showing you how they got there in their position. And you're like, I got to film like in Texas here with, Phil Jones and Rory Vaden. And they called me and I was like, wow, this is crazy. Right. Mm-hmm. And it was like a one-on-one masterclass. And I got to see behind the scenes how they were operating their companies.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, that's the next chapter.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, people underestimate how much information you get to take in by being behind the lens.
Yes.
Obviously, I'm with Ryan Pineda, so I get to see every top business level person. We've had everybody come through, from the Myron Goldens to the Grant Cardones to the Ed Milet's. Like, We've had everybody come through, and I've got not only to see them speak, hear a podcast from them, but also all of those behind-the-scenes conversation, right? Or we'll go film golf, and golf courses where a lot of the deals are being done. But that information is priceless compared to what it would mean if I was just filming and not paying any attention to what they were talking about. So like I'm getting information that people are paying hundreds of thousands of dollars a year for.
Yes.
And I'm getting it for free and I'm getting paid to do it.
Right.
Right. And so I love that you say that, because what that means is that you're not only taking in, but you're retaining the information too. You're getting free blueprints on how to operate your business and in your space. So that's awesome.
Exactly.
I can remember too, I was going to speak at Levi's event.
Okay.
And you were there, you were filming it. You guys, I believe you all were streaming that, or you were talking. I don't know if you actually streamed it or you were talking about streaming. I can't remember. But we were there, and it was you, Logan. Nick was there one day. And I remember having that conversation with you then, like, Brandon, at some point you got to take yourself out of that seat. Your dad was there too, actually.
Yep.
And I was like, at some point, you can't be the one behind this camera.
Exactly.
And I was like, not if you want to actually grow this thing. And it wasn't like I was saying, like, you had to, like, completely, but the first thing I learned from being around all these entrepreneurs is that the first thing you do when you can is hire somebody to replace the piece that you don't need to be doing.
Yep.
Whatever doesn't make the most sense to your time is how you need to replace them and hire for that position. So hearing you say it now, I'm like, yeah, like that's how you know your business is growing.
Yes.
That's how you know you're getting more opportunities. That's how you know all those things, because you're starting to think, okay, all right, I have to make more time here. And then by growth, that's not just in business. That's just not in your journey. It's also in your life, right?
Yep.
You got married, right?
Oh, yeah.
I'm lucky enough to be married 10 years.
Nice.
And for a good portion of those years, I'm up all night editing.
Yep.
And so I was like, okay, I don't want to do this anymore.
Oh, yeah.
And even this year, I took certain cuts of income to make sure that I didn't have to go back to that.
Nice.
Right? Because I can sacrifice $1 if it means more time with my family, if it means more time enjoying what you actually, the fruits of your labor.
Yes.
So it's good to hear you say that, man. Like, it's really awesome, because I think, too, you have now done it enough to be able to train and prepare anybody for what's coming.
Oh, yeah.
And to be able to send out a really solid team.
Right. And it's, it's been a blessing. And just like I took that to heart when you said that. It's like, okay, what are the next steps? And over the last, 6 months, we've been able to work with an editing team. Actually, our new landing pages from another editor that's creating all the back end stuff.
Nice.
And it's like, today I woke up and I sent out the raw content. Here's the interviews. I woke up today. We have it in our system. And the comments were there. Make this change, make this change, make this change. The editor has it. They already made the changes. And I'm like, I wish I had these systems,
years ago,
right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, a project that would have took me like 5-6 hours is now waking up to it. And you're just like typing in the comments and you're like, make these changes. And it's a game changer now.
Absolutely.
Because I think the hardest thing for creatives is giving up that editing when they first start, because they want to make it their own. They want to dial in, this is the creative outlook and this is my vision and I'm having fun doing it. But then you realize, like, there's a system to it. Most videos are the same. And how can you systemize that business? And, this year I've really woken up to, what, for 2025 is now pulling back and teaching, these videographers, these filmmakers, what I've learned, not only from the filmmaking standpoint, but also now I'm learning the back end and continuing to learn every day. Yeah. Because, and I think that's what's incredible about this circle is like, if you are paying attention when you're filming and learning from these people, if you have the heart, that's going to make you strive to be better.
Absolutely.
And each year you wake up and you're like, oh my gosh, look at these leaps and bounds God has done in my life because you decided to take that leap of faith.
You got to take it. Yeah, man. Like it goes back to, even for myself, right? Like I've never expected to be in front of a camera. Yeah. Like my expectation was always be behind the scenes, know your role, do it extremely well so that people can see the value in it and just get the work done. Oh, yeah. All right. I knew that doing that, I was going to make some solid money. I was going to have some solid experiences and I could just, life would be good. And then, through God's grace, I end up building my own platform and understanding that, okay, this is to serve people. Yes. So what are you going to do? What are you going to give to the people? And then, like you said, the creative side of you goes, it needs to be perfect, right?
Yes.
You're painting this picture of what you want your image to look like, and nothing's ever being released because you want it to be perfect.
Oh, yeah.
And then I had to get to that point where I realized, like, no one cares.
Right.
No one's looking for perfection.
True.
Especially when you're serving, all they're looking for is what you have to offer. And I learned that because we were filming videos for Ryan, and it would take imagine this, and you guys that are watching and hearing, y'all can imagine. We live in Vegas. It's 115 degrees sometime in the summertime.
Yeah.
We're filming home tours that are on top of mountains.
Yeah.
We got to climb up there to even get to it. And these aren't just 2,000 square feet homes. These are $1 million homes that are 7,000, 8,000 square feet sometime. And I remember the video was perfect. Yeah. We spent so much time on this edit and what it looked like and filming it. We put the drone up, did all the work to do it. And I remember it got released and it did 1,000 views in the first 24 hours. And I was like, we just spent about 10 hours creating this and got 1,000 views. Now, don't get me wrong, for those listening, 1,000 views, you got to treat those like people. You get in a room full of 1,000 people, you'll feel great about that. You'll feel like it won't feel small to you. But after you film, 10 hours and created this in 10 hours, and then you also look at every other video that did 40K or 50K on views, you're like, okay, this isn't making any sense. What I learned in that moment, though, is that perfection didn't mean anything to the audience. Yeah. That they wanted the information. Yep. Right? They wanted you to serve them with information. Like, yeah, that's cool that the water fountain's really slow and the fireplace is slow flames. Like, that's really cool. I love how you all did that. How the heck did they even get that to look so smooth in slow-mo? Yeah. That was great. But I really want to know how much he's going to make on this flip. I really want to know how much this house is going to sell for and how much money they put into it. Oh, yeah. Like, the information was more important to them. And so it changed my perspective on how to view things, which made me get way more efficient with what we do. I was like, okay, now I need to develop a system and process that is optimized for efficiency and without sacrificing quality, but just efficiency. Yeah. Because they don't care. They don't care about your throwing it in 120 frames and making it extreme. Like, they don't care. It doesn't matter to them. And so that changed my perspective. Now I'm like, okay, create something and just put it out and let the world have it. Yep. Some people are going to like it. Some people not. Oh, yeah. I'm going to stutter. I'm going to say things wrong. I'm going to forget my questions. I'm going to do all those things. It's going to be completely imperfect, but it's going to be raw, true, and who I am. Yep. It's going to serve someone. It will. And so I think like that's a great message to send, right? Like, you had to think to yourself, all right, Brandon has to step back. He has to create a system and a process that's going to it's going to allow for us to continue to do what we do. Exactly. But now I can focus on elevating even more without sacrificing my quality. True. And so efficiency is gonna be a big part of that. But that's awesome to hear, dude, because like I'm excited for 2025 for you all. Like I said, you guys are crushing the live event space. Right. Talk a little bit about our first event. Do you remember it?
Oh man, so let's go back. So I think we were at church, and I think did you come up to me and you're like, hey, do you want to film this event? Yeah. I was like,
that sounds like me.
Yeah. I was like,
probably a week before.
Yeah. I was like, okay, I'm available. And just like the first live event, like what I got to see, Justin Berry and his team produce was something that changed the course of where we're headed in 2025. Because there is nobody else doing live events like that team did and what you produced in the country. Yeah. Like, because you're the leader, you're directing, you have Austin back there running gun for micro content for social media. Yep. You have Spencer Berry doing live edits after lunch. The edits are already on the big screen. Yeah. You have me filming, getting content for that, and also running gun around. And I was just like, look at this efficiency. And when I went to other events that we would film in the country or in Vegas, I go, there is nobody else doing that, what your team has been dealt and has done at that efficiency. And I'm like, there is such a need for that in 2025 moving forward. And I just think, there's never been a time that people need high quality content, but also being efficient on the back end. Yeah. And when you can provide that value to them, especially when you have live events, you had Ryan doing podcasts, and he was creating that with all the top speakers, which provided massive value because those speakers, when I noticed that it was the first event, they only stay for an hour, hour and a half, and they're gone.
That's it.
And then Ryan's back there, and then he's doing the podcast, which brings them more value because time is money. And just seeing how you guys operated those live events and just being a part of that group and learning from the top entrepreneurs in the world was something just truly special.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. But yeah, it's funny because that's how I approach anybody that I see is hungry.
Yep.
It's because I know for me,
Yeah.
Like you did it today. You were like, hey, we got this thing coming up.
Yep.
I'm down. Like,
Yeah.
I'm going to put it on the calendar right now. It's no questions, right? Like if you're looking for anyone, I'm down, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what it is, it's a hunger for not only getting an opportunity, but getting an opportunity not only to serve, but also to kind of educate yourself on it.
Yes.
Now that you're doing it, now I want to see it again, right? Like, I asked you to come on because, one, you're nice. Like, it's no question. Like, you're nice with that camera. You know what you're doing.
Oh, yeah.
You have all the skill in the world. You know, that was never even a reason for it. I knew you had that already.
Yeah.
But I asked you to come on because I was like, I don't have to babysit him.
Right.
And I know he's going to kill it.
Oh, yeah.
And it spoke to just your ability first, right? Like, and I literally was like, hey, this is what we need.
Yep.
If you could do that, great. You was like, I got it, gone.
Yeah.
Right? And I think we talked at the end of it. It was about the time we talked again. But what we do with these events, what my goal is always is for you to not have to go home with it.
Yep.
Right? Like you said, go home and spend that time with your family.
Yeah.
One of the things we teach with Ryan Pineda is the wealthy way.
Yep.
That's you don't work after 5, you don't work on weekends. And what we consider that is I should not have to go to my computer and edit a video after 5 o'clock. I shouldn't have to do I do some stuff because it's just part of my day? Yeah. But it's not work. It's like I can not do it too. You know what I mean? And that should be the goal. Like I've watched videographers and photographers drown in their own edits because they're taking on jobs at a higher rate than they can actually get the content out.
Mm-hmm.
Right, so now clients are waiting for this, and I'm like, no, I'm gonna get you yours today.
Yeah,
I want it to be done today. I don't want to go home with this. I don't want to be up all night. And so that's how I started to develop a system that would create that.
Right.
And I even had to turn some of my shooters into editors, and and that's how I became like, all right, they got to know everything.
Right.
Because at any point, I need you to be able to get out and do any of these things. And so that's how that became about. One, I didn't want them to go home with it. The next thing I thought about though is how do they do it at like major sports events?
Oh yeah.
So I see the dunk highlight right after it happens on my social media.
Yeah.
And it's not just because they got cameras and it's live on TV. It's because there's someone there that's dedicated to making sure that highlight gets posted.
Yep.
So all right, let me start to think, all right, what's the most efficient way to do this? Brandon shoots it. He shouldn't have to edit it too because he's going to need to go back out and shoot. Let's just swap out cards and let's start the edit right there. Let's start the process right there. Mm-hmm. The hardest thing during that time, like creating that, was getting shooters to understand that they're not going to be the editor.
Yep.
Because like you said, they want control. They want to be able to. They're shooting it, so they want to see it come out a certain way.
Exactly.
So it took some time to get people to trust each other. Like, no, you got to trust Spin with this edit. He's gonna get you right. Don't worry about it. You'll still get credit for it. You still have your footage at the end of the day if you want to do something else with it. But understand that this is the most efficient way to do it.
Yeah.
So that you don't have to go home with it. Like we were giving you the car. Like here's
exactly.
a car for
like
you to
it's
use.
Done.
Right. Like we don't want you to feel any pressure or like any extra work from this event. You should leave feeling like, okay, I got to do a little bit, not much. And so that's how we start setting that goal up. And it was like, okay, I need someone for shorts.
Yep.
I need someone for podcasting.
Yep.
I need someone to cover the room. I need someone to do coverage specifically for promotions on the next event.
Oh yeah.
And then I need someone that's going to be right here, just in case anything changes and needs to be tweaked. And that's kind of how I function that team. The podcast was so important to me. When it became about trying to figure out how to do it. Like I made them start paying for a room just for podcasting.
Right.
Because what was important to me is that some of these speakers we may not see for a very long time again.
Yeah.
And this is the perfect time for them to sit down with you and promote. Not only is it promoting the event because it's filmed at the event, you can kind of tell when it's at an event, but it's also they feel great coming off stage.
Oh yeah.
right? All the nerves are gone. They just crushed it on the stage. They got their standing ovation. This is the best time for them to talk.
Yeah.
Not only that, they also just taught a room, so now they can teach an audience.
Ooh.
So all that information is really fresh right off the stage. Very rarely do we do the podcast before they go on stage.
Oh, yeah.
Because we want that energy out there for the live audience. And then when we get them back, it's like, oh, they settled and they feel comfortable. By that time, you know, whoever the main host is, whether it be Ryan or another creator that's hosting that event, they've already had a conversation beforehand, and they've already, like, they've met each other's family usually. Like, all those things have happened, so there's some familiarity when they get to the podcast set. And it just makes a really great dynamic of a conversation. Man. And usually, especially anybody that's doing events at a high level, no one says no.
Yep.
Reason being, this is perfect timing to mastermind with another individual who's doing it, right? Like, who else would you want to hear from other than the person that's running the event? Who else would you want to hear from other than the speakers, right? So it's a perfect setup and a perfect situation to do it. Now, it takes a lot of, scheduling. It takes a lot of, it takes a lot to get it done and get it completed, because there's been times where we've missed, too. Where we was like, dang, he's not going to have time. He's got to fly out, But that happens, too. But what we get usually is perfect episodes from people because of how they feel, and they're amped up and excited. The energy's real high. So to me, every event should have it. Whether you have a podcast or not, you should be interviewing your speakers at your event. I can't see why anybody wouldn't. But yeah, man, like, and I was hoping for anybody that would help us out, that they can go, oh yeah, I get it now. Like, I get it now. Now I can go do this and figure out how to create a team behind it that's gonna make the most sense. And then you just start planning and kind of your invoices measure that, right? So it's like, we've had people ask us to do events without a budget.
Right.
And it was no disrespect, but I was just like, I could do this event with 2 people.
Yeah.
But the amount of work that it's going to take to do that, I don't know that I want to do.
Yeah.
Right? But I can send somebody else that will do it for you.
Yep.
It just won't be what you expect and what you see from us.
Exactly.
So that was a big thing. And then lastly, I think if I could say anything about our events, is the reason why we want to, the last reason why we want to be so efficient is because we want the people that aren't there to feel like they missed out.
Yep. The FOMO.
Yeah, I definitely want you to feel like, oh man, I should have bought that ticket. I should have went.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to give you a little piece of everything that goes on, right? From the speakers to the after parties.
Yep.
And like you said, usually we got our speakers' videos going up before they even get off stage.
Oh, yeah.
It's happening right now. You can still come get a ticket if you try, but I hope that the next one you're like, okay, I got to be there.
Right.
And so far, that's been great. It's worked. We did, for 3 years straight, we did a 1,000-person event every quarter.
Yeah.
So 4 times a year. And although some of those events weren't money makers, right? So a lot of them we broke even on.
Yeah.
What it did was it just built brand.
Yep.
And recognizable brand too, right? We've been in the airports where the guy's like, oh, right up there, you're the guy that runs that event. What's it called? Wealth, right? Like, because they saw it somewhere, it caught their attention, and probably that next one that they see, that advertisement on the next one, he's gonna get. Right, so it's like it just built brand. It also puts you around all these high level individuals, right? Part of building your brand is authority, right? Your track record.
Yeah.
It's the number one thing I always tell people. You got to ask yourself, why should anybody trust you?
Yep.
All right, because if you haven't done anything and you don't really have a track record, and all you got is a few little, I don't care. You can have 100,000 followers. If you ain't never actually done what you're talking about, you got nobody's got real reason to trust you in a way, to spend money with you and to support you in any kind of way. So that's what you should be focused on. How do I build brand and build trust with the audience? What our audience has done now is that they understand that we're coming with a certain level of expertise. Like, it's a certain expectation on our events, which is why I get disappointed when something doesn't go. Yeah. It's like, no, I know people are expecting to see this type of content. There's no reason for our content to be bad, right? They're expecting to get certain things out of it. And so it's really awesome that you're like, you've taken that and you've created a team and a company, essentially, that could service anybody in that same way. It doesn't matter the niche.
Exactly.
So I had fun doing it in real estate and finance and business, and you're getting ready to do it all
Right.
over the
Oh,
all
yeah.
over the place with all kind of. You get to see so many different things, which is really awesome.
And I think that's the thing where it's never boring, right?
Yeah.
But it was just like when I was sitting with Joe for 2025 game planning, he was like, Brandon, you have a real estate, like I have VAs that edit photos. I have a real estate company that can edit photos, produce videos. I have the drone business because we're editing, we're 107 drone pilots. I go, we did 150 weddings. I go, now we're in the event space. And Joe goes, you have like 4 or 5 companies.
Yeah.
Now you just build the systems, you already know it, and it's plug and play.
That's it.
And I'm just like, oh, I never thought about that way, but it's a new level. And now it's like, okay, we mastered one thing, now we have to learn and build something else. And I think if any videographers out there, I think people try to go so hard, and this is a lot of people that I know in the space that I can say right now, I'm officially caught up with all our weddings, all our events, and we had the biggest, best blessings of this year. Never done more business, and we're not backlogged. Like I know other video companies that are still backlogged on all these events, and I'm like, that's just not the way to do things. And build those systems. That's why it's so important. And you just have to go through those trials to realize you don't want to do that anymore, and realize how much work it takes.
Yeah. It's great, man, because in January, we're launching what's called the Creator Lab. It's the first time anybody's hearing about it. But the Creator Lab is going to give those systems like already created and handed. It's plug and play, right? What I've done in the last 6 months, along with a partner of mine, Alex, is we've figured out what all we use on the day-to-day, what we use for events, what we use for influencer growth, what we use for business growth. And we've packaged it enough so that guys like yourself, guys like videographers that are watching this, here you go, put everything all right into that.
Yeah.
Right? It comes with a CRM. It comes with a list already for freelancers and community.
Oh, nice.
It's an 8-week training, right? Like, and you get one-on-one calls. You get it's a complete community package program for you to get into and to really dial in everything you do, because I felt passionate about so many creators not understanding that other side that's going to take them to grow, right? Like, it's like, like I was there when I was like, I want to be the best videographer.
Yeah.
I want to get right with this video, with this camera, and I want to get all these opportunities to do these different things. And I was all on my own trying to figure it out. And then I started to see, there's more to this. There's a lot more to this that I got to learn. And I got lucky to get around all these different entrepreneurs and business owners, and they all were saying the same thing: systems and processes.
Yep.
What's your workflow look like? How are you? What's your KPIs? How are you even measuring whether or not you're doing it good? Well, this system is going to give you all of those pieces so that you can plug and play. And I'm so excited for it because we really worked hard on it, because we wanted to just allow people to go in and go, okay, all these things that I'm missing, I got to start creating for myself. Right. And so, all the stuff that took us years to do, they got a shortcut. They'll be able to go do it quick. And so be looking for that. It's creatorlabs.com, or just go to justinberry.com and you can find it there as well. But it's the real deal, bro. Like, you're understanding what that means to have these things and how you're going to scale it. So you did how many events would you say you did total, like including weddings and events this year?
I would say our company, my dad's done the books, and I mean, I think we're at like 250, like that's amazing, literally, bro. Like every day we were having 3-4 shoots, and like, and the output that I was producing, and I've learned, speed and efficiency, because we can't get backlogged because the next shoot's going to be bigger and better. And I'm like, so I think it was like, I'll have to look at it, but I think it's 250, 300 shoots, like real estate, that's all amazing. This stuff. And
that's amazing. Like, and that's what I mean. Like, what we're gonna offer is gonna allow you, like, you'll know that number from just looking at your phone. Right. You'll know, like, okay, this is what we did. This is what we made. It's like all those pieces will play a huge part. Along with that, though, you're also building brand. And so, Heartfelt Productions, Brandon himself. Like, to me, I love Heartfelt. I love like what it means, because it's really showing that you're passionate about what you do. Oh yeah. But when I see your videos now, I'm like, that's Brandon. Like, that's who we want to, like, people don't get to see that side of you because you're quiet. You're stealth.
I
Like,
know. Exactly.
They don't get to see that. So like, what you're doing on your content side now is really good stuff, bro. And I'm excited to see like that grow as well.
Thank you.
What's your plans for that? What are you gonna try to do in this 2025?
I mean, first of all, just if anybody is wanting to join that program that you have, the Content Lab, it's like, I wish I had that going on because I stepped into this knowing nothing.
Yeah.
And, to have that community, to have those systems, because it's all about systems. That's what you need. And I can't wait. I'm going to purchase it for our company.
Yeah.
Just because I know where that's headed for 2025, because, you can't operate without systems and processes because there's so much back end. So excited to get in that course. But for 2025 is just, building out the team, getting more, of these high quality live events here in Las Vegas and really producing the highest quality content with efficiency.
Yeah.
And then also providing value, that I've learned to other creators, always giving back because I always want to serve the people that were in our position to get to that next level because it can be done. And that's what you have done with these programs and what you have built. Because in the end of the day, like I'll go on a shoot, but to get a call from Ozzy saying, hey, I just booked this gig, the biggest gig I've ever booked for this price. And I'm like, dude, you're 22 and you did that? Because he asked us questions because we have the system and processes, but Ozzy L's asking questions. How do you do contracts? How do you how do you create these relationships? And I believe when you have that community and what you're going to be building, that's a cheat sheet. If a 22-year-old kid can do it,
that's it.
That's, because he has those mentors.
Yeah.
And he was actually at the Grow With Video live event when he was 19.
Wow.
And he came up to me, he was like, oh, you're filming events. This is cool.
Yeah.
But he took action, said, hey, let's move forward. I would love to film with you.
See?
And that's all it is. Take an ask. And I think this is the last thing I'll leave for videographers, filmmakers watching this. When you get that opportunity, like earlier today, and I was like, hey, I got this event we're filming, and you say yes, you never know what God's plan and that opportunity is going to leave you
so true.
To that next step.
Yeah.
Like I imagine like when I was starting, yes. And these are the opportunities. These are the rooms you're allowed to be in because you say yes as long as it lines up with your morals and who you are as a man. Yep. Because, I have standards. This is what I'm filming. This is what I believe in. And that's who I'm going to say what we're going to do.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to learn your no.
Yeah.
All right? Like, everybody has a no. You just have to learn what your no is, and you have to know that it's not negotiable.
Yep.
Right? Like, I've gotten offers for things to film that it will never happen.
Yep.
It just doesn't align with even who I am.
Exactly.
I almost feel disrespected that you even asked me.
Yes.
And if you look at, I don't know how you found me.
Yep.
Or what if you looked at my brand at all, you would know that I would never ever take that shoot. But I just have a no for that.
Yep.
There's also, it comes with numbers too, right? Like there's certain prices, like it just will never happen for that.
Yep.
And it's not that I don't want to serve you. It's just that you don't necessarily see the value that I actually hold on myself.
Exactly.
So it can't happen. So it's like, there's certain ways and things, like you said, we did a lot of free stuff early on.
Yes.
It's not likely that I'm willing to do a whole lot of free stuff now.
Yep.
Right? But there's also yeses that I give before I even know what that number looks like.
Oh, yeah.
You asked me something, I said yes before you even talked about a number. It don't matter.
Exactly.
It's in the calendar already before we ever talk numbers, because that part is what I have for you, right? And so everyone has to have what that looks like for themselves, right? Like the biggest turnoff for me when I'm trying to work and create with a creator is if they talk the numbers before they even know what the assignment would be.
Oh, yes.
Right? And just going back to own morals and own values, you don't say, hey, this is coming up in March, and then I go, how much is it paying?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
If I'm led by that number automatically, we're gonna get to that.
Yeah.
But if I'm led by that, it's not likely that I'm looking to give you the best service.
Exactly.
And so there has to be, appropriate. You got to be appropriate with how you function, right? And how you, especially in the space of freelancing, where a lot of it, like, this is relationships.
It is.
You know what I mean? Like, a lot of the jobs that you get are word of mouth. A lot of jobs that you get are referrals from people. Like, it's relationship based, right?
Oh,
like, I was able to excel in certain areas because of relationships that I gained.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I still have the text message screenshot on my phone. I save it because it's a reminder of willing to kind of pull back your own pride.
Yes.
And throw yourself out there. I text Omar El Takori back in 2020.
Yeah.
I text him and I said, hey, if you got jobs that you're not taking, you can send them over here. I'm trying to get out of this 9 to 5.
Right.
All right. And it wasn't like I was hurting or doing bad. It was just I see myself doing this as a profession.
Yeah.
So this 9 to 5 is not going to allow for that.
Mm-hmm.
And I need to get around people that are doing it already.
Oh, yeah.
Right? The next message was to Ryan. Hey, don't worry about looking for another, editor. You already found one. Right?
Yep.
It's just taking that risk and really stepping out. But mainly I also have my nose.
Yes.
So it's like, these are people I can say yes to. That job that I was offered right before that, I knew I was going to, it was no way I was going to do that.
Mm-hmm.
No matter how much it paid.
Exactly.
Right? It didn't make sense for who I am, or it didn't even make sense to my family.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Like, how can I go home and tell her I'm doing this?
Right.
Right. So there's all those little pieces that play a part in it. So I love that you said that, because as a entrepreneur, and you said it, as a man or woman, you have to know where your line is drawn, because it's gonna dictate your business in the long run. You open some doors up to different things, making a certain amount of money, your team's gonna look at you crazy when you say no to those again.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, so you got to be very, very mindful of that, and that's why it's also important with how you hire. Right? Like I said earlier, the guys that are on our team, there's a standard.
Yep.
Right? Like, I remember, I don't know if you were in that message. It might have just been my team.
Yeah.
But this was going on during one of our events in May of last year. Christian event that we were throwing, 1,000 people at a church. And there was some friction between some of the team members with assignments. Now, mind you, we had been over assignments a week ahead of time. Everybody knew what they were supposed to go in and do.
Right.
But in moments of, like, high energy where you're excited because this event is about to take place and we're trying to kill it, when that's happening, people tend to lose direction.
Mm-hmm.
And I was backstage, and I didn't know what was happening, but I can sense that there was an issue. And my text message was very simple. Everyone's been assigned.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't like your assignment, pack your stuff away, and you can either attend as an audience member, or you can go home. It was not me being rude. It was not me. I just wanted to be very clear on, here you have an assignment completed.
Nice.
Completed to your best ability. This is how we all win.
Mm-hmm.
Because I look at it like, if something doesn't work on one aspect of our team, everybody looks bad. To me, I look like I don't know what I'm doing, and y'all look like y'all don't know what y'all doing. Nobody's ever gonna want to work with us again.
Exactly.
Right? That's how I feel about it, and that's how serious I take it. So it was like, hey, go home if you don't like it. You should have spoke up earlier, but you don't have to be here. And you can still come in the office Monday. It'll be fine.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not gonna even hold it against you, but I don't want you here if you don't like what you're doing and you don't want to be here. Some stuff is just not negotiable.
Oh, yeah.
And so as you're running a company, you'll see, like, there'll be moments where it's like, I don't want to have this conversation, but I have to.
Yep.
All right. Like, and so that stuff will happen, absolutely. But get into more of your content now, because we're seeing your videos come out and.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that's, the next chapter is where once you learn, the skill sets, now you know how you can provide value.
Yeah.
So the content that I'm producing, like on Instagram or, social media, and being around all these coaches like yourself and, Omar and everybody stepping up, is like, okay, how can I provide value to more people and make a bigger impact? And I've always been passionate about creating videos. Like, I was watching like Peter McKinnon or Casey back in the day growing up, and I was like, I really love the storytelling aspect, and like that's why like Heartfelt Productions is like, when God said it was like telling these heartfelt stories throughout the Las Vegas Valley and the bigger picture where you just never know. Now it's like the country where we were traveling a lot.
Yeah.
And I think once that aspect came, I was like, okay, how can we tell these stories? But then I was like, okay, these stories are being told, but sometimes I think it could be told better, like with a vlog or with a, you know, that kind of content, not just sitting back on a podcast.
Right.
And it takes a different aspect. So in 2025, I think giving more of like a behind the scenes approach of what we're doing, how we're providing value, and people can see what it looks like behind the scenes, because that's very intriguing what goes on.
Right.
And, you know, creating these, you know, micro content videos, like I'm very, like when my brain moves really quick. So I'm that guy where I could, okay, that's why we have no back end edits, because let's get those done. Let's get that up. So, you know, maybe starting like a daily vlog or getting into like more YouTube space of like what we're doing when we're traveling to provide value would be something. Once those systems are in place, then we can expedite that to the next level. So
no, that's awesome. That's awesome. It's exciting, man, because again, you're in a lane where there's going to be a lot to show, and so it's going to be exciting to see that. What's your favorite thing to shoot?
Oh, man. So, like, honestly, like right now is I really start the documentary side. Like telling those stories visually and creating something like Make-A-Witch has always been great, because we get to tell, like, we've been with that organization filming content for 6 years.
Oh, wow.
And that's how I started. I was on a phone gimbal, went to an event and was like, hey, I make videos. And they were like, this video looks great. And I'm like, it was shot on an iPhone. And what we've done
6 years ago.
What we've done in that organization is you walk into the wishing place and Scott, and he has these frames of each kiddo. There's about 8, 10. And there's a QR code under each of those photos. That's the video we got to produce.
Nice.
And like, when somebody could just walk in, click the QR code and watch that video, that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
Like, videos for me is about making an impact on changing somebody's life, you know? And like when we do City Lights, when we got to walk in and tell D's story and just like what he's doing behind as a barber shop and how he's saying those, like that gets me pumped up.
Yeah.
And like, you know, doing live events, but eventually is, you know, have that amazing company working and then working on these bigger productions, telling these like amazing stories that need to be told.
Yeah.
And I have one that I'll be doing. It's in the works. So my cousin was actually in a helicopter crash, and it was like 3 years ago. So he was military Apache. So God really spoke to me to share his story of the 3 pilots that lost their lives, you know, in that, you know, tragic event. So it's just sharing these stories, you know, it's Heartfelt Productions. And, you know, that's what really, you know,
so
pumps
on
me
brand.
up.
That's perfect, man. Like, yo, having the capability and the opportunity to film things that are meaningful.
Yep.
You know, I love it. Like I've always been driven on live events.
Yeah.
Because I only get one take at everything.
Yep.
And so I've always loved, like, you got to get this right. Like, the pressure of that, for some reason, I thrive on. I feed on that. Right. It reminds me a lot of sports.
Yep.
And that clutch time is like, crunch time is when you want the ball. Right. And it's like, if you're gonna trust somebody with it, let me have it. I got it. And so I still feel that every event. Right. Like I get to feel what that is like. So events have always been like a fun thing for me. Like even filming in church on Sundays is like, all right, we got to get this right. Like, we only got to take. So I've always felt that way about those, but the storytelling behind it is still extremely meaningful to me. And so it's what is displayed not only to the live room, but also what is displayed online. There's 2 different things there. And so it's really meaningful. But I got the opportunity a couple months ago to film with God Behind Bars.
Ooh, nice.
One of the best experiences I've ever had filming, and it reminded me that, because it still felt like we was doing church.
Yeah.
But what the difference is you can feel the stories of the room.
Right.
Right? And it's different when you're in church where you got some people acting like they got it all together.
Yeah.
And most of us know none of us have it together.
Yep.
But you don't feel that necessarily in the room. Whereas over there, you're like, these are all people that have clearly made a mistake. Some worse than others.
Yeah.
But all mistakes are, they're all made mistakes to put themselves here. They baptized 80 people.
Wow.
And there was about 200 women there, and they baptized about 80 women. And I remember thinking to myself, Justin, what you're witnessing is next level.
Right.
Like, you don't get this experience.
True.
You may not ever get this again.
Yeah.
Right? Like, this is a different level of experience because this is happening in what is a restricted location.
Yep.
And so I was like, wow. And so I took a minute and I just stood in the back and I was like, man, listening to them sing, listen to them worship.
Yeah.
It was like they're in, the worst of the worst environments on the day to day, and they're still rejoicing.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And I was like, they're still worshiping God. So I was like, man, this is incredible. But then it got even better because at the very end of that, we were all wrapping up. We were getting ready to put stuff away.
Right.
And the warden, who you could tell is like really tough. Like she's a tough woman. She's not for any games in there. Right. She goes, can I have one more come out? She wants to get baptized. And so I look at Austin's with me. And I look over at him and I'm like, and they're like, but you can't film it. So I go, oh, I'm like, who they about to bring out here? Like, what do you mean? 16-year-old girl. Little, couldn't be no more than 4'8".
Right.
Tiny little thing. Unfortunately for her, she had committed a crime that ended up, expiring another young girl. So she literally had to, spend like the next 20 in there. And at first I was like, why would they ever put a little girl like she's too young to be here with these women? And because she was so young, she was completely isolated. She couldn't be around it.
Right.
And I was like, that has to be, like, the only person that you talk to is the guard? Like, that is, I was like, man, so our system is already jacked up in the first place. But she wanted to get baptized. And when she came out, she was smiling ear to ear. Man. Ear to ear. Like, she was so happy to be around people and see people and have this moment, and accepting Christ and getting baptized. And all I could think in that moment was, Justin, you'll never be able to show people this story, but you can only tell people this story.
Mm-hmm.
When it is applicable, you make sure you tell this story.
Yeah.
You make sure you let people know that even in the darkest, at that age, that young, that scary, she still found God.
Yeah.
She still found Christ in it. And I was like, yeah, like that's so important to know because what you think is like your stronghold today can change quickly.
Yep.
And there's only one source to go to.
Yes.
And so I was like, yeah, Justin, forget what you care about is going on in your business right now. Look at what she's going through.
Mm-hmm.
All right? Because while 2024 was good for some, bad for others, I had like a mid-year. Like it wasn't the best year for me. And I was like, and I think what it was is I got complacent in certain areas.
Right.
So before going in, I'm like, man, I got to do this. I got this going on.
Yeah.
And then you get in there and you're like, but none of that stuff matters. None of the, like those aren't even real problems.
Oh, yeah.
Because any of them would trade with you in a heartbeat.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, yeah, these are the stories that need to be told. One of these days, she's going to tell her story of her experience and the mistakes she made and how she rebounded from it.
Right.
And I just hope that there's the coldest videographer and director and producer there to help her tell that story.
Right.
Man. Like I hope those individuals are there because who knows in that amount of years what production is going to look like.
Oh yeah.
But I hope there's somebody there that can tell that story because it's going to impact so many people. So when I think about you saying, like telling the story of D and even watching your footage, your drone footage of the new building, right?
That's what I'm saying. Like
that stuff is so impactful for people because I got to see the building before I got to see the building. Yeah. Right. Because of your videos, right? Like, oh man. And then I get to drive past it and I already know what it looks like on the inside because of your videos, right? These are all things of like that actually truly matter because it is telling a story. And even beyond that, this Sunday we get a donation from Transformation. So I gotta say a shout out to them. $1 million donation to the ministry and to what we're building. And so it's just amazing, dude. Like how's that story gonna be told in this time, man? Like, and I hope you're a part of telling that because it's amazing, bro. Like, it's tough. I love that we get these opportunities to do it for sure.
It's all about the storytelling, and like that's the thing too. Like Hope for the Prisoners, we were there last week telling these stories, and when you're around where it's 101 families, and John Ponder's on stage, and like Big Daddy Weave and all these like people that are there to be there just because you see God moving in these rooms. And not only their families show up, but they're in prison and they get to see their families for one night and open up, have a dinner, open up presents together, and to interview these people and hear their stories and like seeing the tears just come down their face and like how grateful they are and what God is doing in their lives. Like, I go, you really have to sit back and go, I'm pressing a button right here. But how many people get to hear that story because you pressed record?
Press record.
Yeah. And it just comes down to that. And that's it. That's where you get the chills, where you're like, you just never know where that video is going to be shown, who's it's going to inspire, and how that is going to make an impact. And that's what drives me every day to, no matter who we're filming, what organization, what, person, is just every day, like, because we play college sports, it's showing up. Filmmaking's a sport, and you only have one time to get it right. And if you don't get it right that one time, like, people are paying you for the services to get it right.
That's
and if you don't get it right, then, you didn't do your job. You left your team hanging. And that's how I feel every time I go out with a camera. It's like, this is a sport, and that's the reason why I love it so much, because it's competitive too, because you're like, how is this video going to be shown out there too? So it all comes back full circle.
Absolutely. Anything else you want to leave the audience? Or
man, I just want to thank Justin Berry for having me on the podcast and just seeing what, God is doing and how he's moving through this organization, and just what he's done and what kind of plans that he's going to be creating moving down the line. Just excited to be a part of it. And what an episode. Like, if anybody was here watching this and, the value that was just here, it's just giving back, but doing what you love and finding your purpose. And, my dad always said that. He was like, raised me, and like he's moving this week, and he's like, I'm looking at these papers of what you have done over the years of, this is the man I wanted you to be, and how he's prayed over. And it's just like, it goes there, but just so grateful to be on the show and, inspiring others out there. And that's what it's all about, giving back and doing what we love. So
absolutely. Where can they find you?
Basically on social media. So Brandon.Laubhan, and then YouTube is Brandon Laubhan, and Heartfelt Productions.Vegas for any productions needs. Reach out. We do it all, and are building that team. So ready to get ready for 2025, and excited to be a part of that.
I love it. You'll find all those links down in the description below. If you're going to book, man, book now, because this guy's busy. He told you he did almost 300 this year, so he's going for 5 and 6 this coming. Be sure to support, man. Thank you for being here. Thank you for coming on. We're going to have to do this again. I'm going to make sure I get Brandon on some lives with us, and we're going to do some education stuff too. So
sweet.
Appreciate you, man. It's been another episode of Wealthy Creator. I'm your host, Justin. Thank you for tuning in. I'll check you on the next one. Peace.
Let's go, man.